Good evening.
Good evening.
I hereby call this September the 9th meeting of the Public Safety Committee to order. As always, we'd like to thank all of our staff for the work that they do in terms of public safety to make sure that our citizens are safe. I'd like to go down the line and recognize our city manager, Mr. Garrity, our city attorney, Attorney Carmen, our public safety attorney, Attorney Sykes, our chief of police, Chief Thompson, and the brave men and women of the police department. I don't want to name you all individually, but thank you for what you do. Chief Mayo and the brave men and women of the fire department, and Mr. August Vernon and brave men and women of the emergency management division of department. So thank you all for what you do. We have several items on the consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. There's a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a involuntary commitment agreement. There's some information regarding online filing of citizen police complaints and accommodations. And there's a presentation from the police department's partnership with Ring Video Doorbell Systems. There is a consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are approved with one sweeping motion unless a member of this committee asks it to be pulled for consideration. At this particular time, members of the committee, are there any items on the consent agenda that should be pulled? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly seconded. All in favor, please vote yes. Opposers have the ability to do likewise.
I'm curious why there are 34 streets in the West Ward.
They go extremely fast in the West Ward, and we're going to get them under control. So yeah, the consent agenda is approved unanimously, and Mr. McIntosh, what I'm hearing from the managers, they're all in the same neighborhood, and it's just all public safety. We'll deal with it. We'll do all your streets the next time.
Okay.
All right?
Good.
Item G1, please.
G1, resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a Forsyth County Involuntary Commitment Transportation Agreement as required by the North Carolina Session Law 2018-33, Senate Bill 630.
And giving us information on this item is Attorney Lori Sykes, our public safety attorney. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mayor Pro Tem Burt, council members. This will be very brief. As we noted in the CARF that was submitted, the General Assembly asked that all cities and counties in the state come up with a community care services plan that deals with mental health issues. Part of that plan, trying to get the PowerPoint to come up. Thank you. Okay. It's required by Senate Bill 630, which was passed, and there was an initial deadline of October 1st of this year to have these plans submitted to the state. As you may know, involuntary commitment laws provide for evaluations and treatment of individuals who are either mentally ill or substance abusers to the point that they are dangerous to themselves or to others. Involuntary commitments are done in one of 2 ways, either with someone appearing before a magistrate and obtaining an order from the magistrate, or by an emergency procedure, which is available to law enforcement and to medical health providers. No matter which route is taken, law enforcement is involved in that they are to take the person named in the order into custody and to transport them to a place where they will be examined under the statutes. Under the involuntary commitment laws that have been in place for some time, the duties of custody and transportation are made very plain. The city is responsible when the respondent is a resident of the city or is taken into custody in the city limits. The county is responsible when the respondent is a resident of the county outside city limits or who was taken into custody outside of city limits. And the responsibility is on counties when the respondent is to be transported between counties, and that would be from one facility to another that is out of county. So the law that I mentioned had as its purpose to improve the delivery of behavioral health services across North Carolina in as many ways as possible. And so every local management entity was charged with getting stakeholders together and adopting this community crisis services plan. The transportation agreement is part of that plan and again must be submitted to the state by October 1st. So for the past several months, there have been meetings with local law enforcement, local hospitals, Daymark Recovery Center, Cardinal Health, which was spearheading the effort, representatives of the magistrate's office and the clerk's office. So the transportation agreement that's in your package and is being submitted for approval should have minimal impact on the police department in the city. But basically what we've done is just put into an agreement the existing statutory requirements. So there are no changes there. The city is involved when it's a city resident, the counties, county and outside counties. Forsyth Hospital at this time has a contract for private transportation in certain circumstances, and as long as they continue that, then that will be of assistance in this overall scheme. Baptist Hospital is also using some of their security staff in limited circumstances for transportation, and as long as that works for them, that will also be part of the scheme. And then finally, this plan will use Daymark as many times as is possible for first examination. Before we adopted this agreement or we proposed this agreement, a lot of first examinations took place in hospital ERs. And so Daymark is stepping in and offering to be that location to take some of the strain off of the hospital ERs. And they are fully qualified to make these evaluations and make these decisions. What we hope will happen from this agreement is, again, it will lessen the burden on hospital emergency rooms as first examination sites. It will lessen the burden on law enforcement through the use of private transportation as that is available, and it will provide one centralized location for first examinations where those are possible. Now, if there is a commitment respondent who is aggressive, who is assaultive, then yes, law enforcement will take care of that. But where they are not, then we have this one centralized location. And as always, with the hope with the state is to provide a more efficient and streamlined process, and that way the community benefits and people that are personally involved in this process benefit. The transportation agreement has been briefed with the county commissioners. It also will be approved by the Kernersville board, and we are asking that you also consider this for approval. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions at this time for Attorney Sykes? Councilmember McIntosh.
Do you anticipate, will the volume of, I'm going to call it an intervention, but do you anticipate the volume changing at all, or is it just who's responsible for?
No anticipated change in volume, no, we really just have taken the existing structure and put it into an agreement.
Got it, okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Larson.
This is about the logistics, I guess, of handling, a need in our community. Does this preclude the placement of these patients in police cars, or are we still going to be would we be carrying?
No, as has been the law, they are still able to be transported in police cars.
Transported in police cars, so
yes.
That would not be excluded under this?
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Scipio.
Where is the Daymark facility located?
It is on Highland Avenue, near the Emergency Services Building and across from the Health Department.
Is it the new building that says Highland Center? Is that where that is?
I believe it is.
The very new building that was just completed not too long ago?
I believe it is, yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I think that sort of transitions into my question. I've been out of the mental health game for a long time when I worked for the Department of Juvenile Justice, but I know there were other companies or organizations that did similar work. You mentioned that Daymark stepped up to be sort of the first point of contact, and I just want to make sure there aren't any other health organizations that stepped up who might be in competition, who want to have sort of first crack at this thing, or is there a reason why we decided to go directly with Daymark? I don't have a problem with Daymark. I think it makes sense, but I just want to make sure that we're not sort of excluding other folks who might want to step up and be attentive to the situation.
And my understanding is that that was the decision of the state and of Cardinal Health, and I'm not sure what process they might have gone through, but they were the designated facility.
Okay. Any other questions at this time? I believe this is a action item.
Yes, sir.
So I entertain a motion.
Motion approved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. I need somebody to second that, please. All in favor, please vote yes. Opposers likewise. That passes unanimously. Thank you, Attorney Sykes.
Thanks.
Item G2, please.
G2, information regarding online filing of citizen police complaints and commendations.
Members of the council, members of the committee, I'll start before I turn this over to Attorney Andrews by saying that I think it might have been a few months back or a year or so ago, there was a group of citizens who was concerned about just sort of crime and stopping the violence and just sort of direction of the city in terms of public safety. They called me to a meeting and they talked a little bit about the idea of having an online citizens complaint process and commendation process. They then came to a subsequent public safety committee meeting and had an adequate discussion about this idea. I think that was led by some community activists and leaders like Arleta Patterson, Nikita McDaniel, and several other folks. I have notified them this would be on the agenda today, so they might be watching. So I wanted to just sort of thank them for bringing this to the committee for conversation. And Mr. Andrews has taken this on, and he's done a great job with the help of the city attorney's office, making sure that we move through this process, because it's a great idea for citizens also who might be disabled, who might not have transportation to be able to come down and file a formal complaint. But this isn't just only about complaints for police officers. We have one of the best police departments in the country. They also have an opportunity to give a commendation to a police officer who's been seen doing the right thing, and I suspect that'll probably happen in more cases than none. But Mr. Andrews, if you just give us a report on this, please.
Yes, sir, Chair Taylor and members of the Public Safety Committee. My name is Alan Andrews. I'm in the City Attorney's staff. As the Chair spoke eloquently about, we were charged with trying to come up with a mechanism where citizens could go online to file complaints, if need be, against police officers. And we also chose to add a vehicle through which citizens could do commendations. So that's been created with the help of various sectors of our staff, including the good folks at the Information Services Department. Currently, citizens must come to the police department or come to the police department and file a complaint longhand on paper if they have a citizen's police complaint to file. That process will still be available, but now they also will have access to a online, I'm going to make that smaller, online complaint process. And the way this will work, there will be links that will be established on our city web page and also on the police web page, which a person could simply go to, click on, access, and there will be forms there that can be populated by the citizen that will provide all the same information that was available, that was solicited on the paper form, and some more information to make the recovery or the receiving of information be more accessible. Doing it this way allows several benefits that we are looking forward to. It provides an alternate mechanism as we have identified. It also allows folks with mobility challenges or any other disability to be able to still participate and file complaints as anyone else would. The electronic format certainly increases legibility, easy for you to say, of the information so that we're not wondering what the words were intended. And it also, because of the way the data is captured and kept, we can access that data and we can create reports from it. We can get information out of it that we need that will be beneficial to us, and it provides flexibility because of that. There are going to be two links, again, that I mentioned earlier that are going to be online and available. They actually are accessible now, that forms are existing that people can type information in. And there are some examples that are in your materials of what the form will look like. The one additional piece to this that we're very excited about is this portal will allow for the inclusion or the uploading of other data. So if you have documents, records, video, audio, things like that, all those kind of files can be loaded. There is a size limit, but the size limit is reasonable. You could upload actual moving video of a certain size if it would help you in your complaint. We simply ask that you make sure you have that connection, and if you have challenges, there are people that you can call to help you with that. And so we'll collect and we will keep all of that information. It will be saved into, we have a system called Laserfish that will capture all the data. It's not editable by staff, but it'll be collected and be used. Upon submission of the information, the Professional Standards Division will reach out to an individual and ensure that all the information has been submitted, and pursuant to their regulations under their CALIA accreditation standard, they will go through a process of formalizing the complaint and getting right away to investigating it, and from there the person's complaint will be treated just like they have been, be fully investigated, and they will be communicated with. So we are pleased to have that. Once they submit their form, they will get an acknowledgement that it has been submitted, so they'll have a record. It'll be accessible via their email and whatnot, so they won't be left wondering, did this work? It'll be there. Also, there is a mechanism for citizens to register a police commendation if they sort of want to issue an attaboy or something that's been good, a good act or deed. And so much like the complaint process, there will be an online portal where they can access and they can include the relevant data. That data will be captured and it will be received by the right people at the police department, it will be investigated, and a commendation, if merited, will be offered to the individual officer who was involved or police employee. So we're very excited about that opportunity. City management staff recommended that be included, and it seems like a good idea. So there's certainly more nooks and crannies to this, but overall, that is what we have presented. And again, this is information items, not an action item, but it's available, and we'll certainly take any direction from the committee on next steps that we follow.
Well, I'll start by saying, before we take any questions or comments, that I thank you for your presentation. I certainly believe that this city, this council, this police department led by our Chief Thompson, has done an excellent job improving our police and citizen relationships. And I think that is one of the reasons why we haven't quite seen some of the problems that we've seen in other cities, even though they've sort of touched Winston-Salem, but we've been able to sort of stay above the fray because our police-citizen relations are great. And I think this is just another feather in our cap. As technology evolves, so should our cities, so should we. And I think, this is a great way to make sure that we're hearing the will of the people, we're protecting the people in the police department, and we're recognizing those good men and women on the force who are doing the right thing and who are out serving and protecting the way they should. So any questions and comments about what we're doing here today? Mayor Pro Tem Burke.
Yes, I'm going to make a comment. I'm very pleased when, even before the attorney gave the report, you made the statement that we do have a very positive police department. We have been very transparent, and we've been an example for others to follow around the United States. I can remember when I first became an elementary counselor, and I had conferences with teachers and their students and parents. The very first thing some of the teachers would do would start talking about the complaints, the negative things. And then I had to have meetings with them, say, when a parent comes in, can't you at least tell one good thing about the child?
First.
Yeah. And then as I look at us want to develop this, which I think is good, but the police will not be used as a whipping post or whatever y'all call that word. They will be treated with respect, and it will be understood that citizens will give complaints. But there's always going to be two sides to every story. And we would like for that to be assured, city manager and attorney, as you put this together. And I'll say again that we do have a very good police department. They take criticism very well. They're out there trying to do everything they can to help. And I want to tell you, as an elderly person, how much I appreciate the time that they give, not only to me, but to other elderly people. It makes us feel good in this city when we see a police with a blue suit that we can go to instead of go away from. So again, this is a good project, and I sure will be monitoring it very carefully. Thank you.
Councilman McIntosh.
I want to thank the chair, legal staff, the police department for this effort. In the age of Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat and everything else, we do need to keep current with the ability to communicate. I think as elected officials, we all recognize, I think staff and the police department all recognize, communication is our most difficult thing. Getting feedback directly from the public is really important, not filtered through a bunch of avenues. This provides that opportunity, both good and bad, and I'm very much in favor of this. I'm sure there are some tweaks and some things that we need to work out with it, but from a concept standpoint, I think it's great. I do think it's also really excellent to have the ability for a citizen to directly commendate, is that the right word? The police. I get those commendations, said, please thank the police for me. I think it's more powerful if those people can go right to the source and thank them directly. And so we want to encourage as much of that as possible. But excellent idea.
Councilman Larson.
We are living in a digital era, and forms are intimidating. I think some people just don't want to fill out forms. This makes it accessible, certainly, to do that. If somebody walks into City Hall upset, feels they've been abused by our police or somebody, how are we treating them? And I guess the question sort of is, when they come into the city secretary office over there, do we have paper copies of this? Do we set them down at a desk and say, here's what you need to fill out? Do we provide them some assistance to complete that process, or do we just basically turn them loose? Mm-hmm. And then the next question I would sort of have then, after they've completed this form, what is their engagement, of course, with the process that obviously they communicated back, but what is expected of them, or what can they expect in future interviews, participation in the hearings, anything that occurs in that process. And that's a step separate from what we're talking about today. I think this is an excellent codification of a process and provides a good standard baseline for filing these and a good way to record them and keep them in the records. Gives us some data to work against. But I do think there's sort of a logistic of operational aspect of how we engage the public and whether this is friendly, user-friendly, and whether or not for certain populations they're going to be comfortable, and whether the city secretary or whoever receives these complaints can have the assurance that they're available to assist people maybe in completing this form in City Hall if they come here and complain about it. That would be my only suggestion. I applaud the effort. Whoever's put this together, I applaud the effort. But now how we use it, I think, is the next question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Larson. Councilwoman Scipio.
I think this is also a really good start. I think it will allow people who are reluctant to come downtown to say, oh, that was a great job, or I really feel threatened by the police, but I'm scared to make a complaint. I think that takes that away from them. And it's a lot more immediate because people have to stew about when do they complain. But if it's immediate like this, I think it's great. Of course, it is for people who have access to the technology to use it. But there are two things I would suggest. I think that one thing that when people file a complaint, they never know where did it go. I heard there would be a discussion about someone will call them back. But maybe there's a way in the design, there's a button that if they get a number, they can check the status.
Like a case number.
That's feedback to them. Okay, I made this complaint. I got a number. My number is 1010. Let me go and check and see where the status of that is. And if it's not, maybe it's still investigation or it's still in whatever, then they can either access or call to follow up. Because I think what we oftentimes lack is good follow-up with our residents when they've got a concern. I also would suggest that on whatever website it comes up, I like to put commendations first and then complaints, because oftentimes people never think about, they always operate on the negative. So let's make the commendations first and then let them find the place for complaints. I think also that I would suggest that this is a great tool for the police department, but I look at public safety. I would like for it also to apply to our fire department because they oftentimes out there doing some fabulous work and people don't think about them. So I'm saying let's just give them the same opportunities that people can give them commendations. And if it's something that didn't work so well, they could talk about that.
And before I go to the Mayor Pro Tem, I think, police, fire, and emergency management, we can just make it applicable to all public safety departments. And here's my prediction. My prediction is you're going to get some complaints, right? Because there are some really worthy complaints that should be considered. Yeah. But you're going to get way more accommodations than you are complaints, especially in the city. And I'll eat my words if they come out in the alternative. But you watch what I say. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, as we were talking about this, I've said to the city manager on many occasions, you are the city manager of a lot of departments, all of them, and they should be under one umbrella. Now, while we're talking about our fire, police, emergency, what about these other departments? If you're going to start something like this, because I got some people can tell you some stories about your community development department, your public works department, about your sanitation department, whatever these departments are, where people are not talking to them right. I mean, they put their foot on them and make certain kinds of comments out in the public, or they talk to them certain kinds of ways. So now, city manager, if you're going to start looking at one, I expect you to be fair and look at all of us.
We do have some of those available already, but we could roll it out much better so that, particularly the complaint side, we have an online accommodation for all employees. It's much more general than this one, but I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Well, I think when Mayor Pro Tem put it that way, it made sort of the concept a lot more complex. I would suggest that either we do one or two things. Like, I like the term pilot. You know, maybe as a pilot, we can start with either all public safety departments or just particularly the police department. See how that works. Let's look at, you know, how we nail this down. It's better to do a few things great than do a lot of things okay. Maybe we figure out how to do this great, make sure we get all the kinks worked out as a pilot, and then we move to other city departments.
I think I can consider that, take that under advisement.
Thank you, ma'am.
Along with understanding what I
Right.
said before.
Yeah.
We heard you loud and clear, ma'am.
Well, they're really kind of different, and I think we can separate that. The police department is a much more, for complaints, is a much more formal process. We have a citizen police review board,
Yeah.
so we separate.
Thank you.
It's a good idea.
Good.
Thank you.
Great idea.
So this is for information purposes only. Mr. Attorney, will this come back to us as an action item, or can you accept the general consensus of this council and committee to move forward with implementing this concept?
So the links that are included in your presentation are ready to be active and can be activated. We did not publicize that because we wanted to get feedback from you, but the forms are available to be completed at any time once we get that approval. It is currently set up for the police department. If we were to add departments later, maybe after the pilot period, that would require some additional work. So it is virtually ready now, and the items that were mentioned, I think Councilmember Scipio was concerned about status. We'll have to see if we can make that be electronic. It's certainly available through human contact now to figure out exactly where an item is. It would have to be in a chain information flow, which would be a computer program to get immediate feedback on where it lies, but we can certainly provide that verbally, and we'll do so gladly at any time.
Okay, so speaking to Councilwoman Scipio, I think she wanted to make a final comment.
I think what's really, really important to this, the success of it, is how do we let citizens know that it's available? Right. How are we going to market it to them? And then how do we tie it into those who don't have computers? It's really important to let them know that computers are at all of our recreation centers.
And public libraries.
And the public libraries. What we know, though, is our city services, they're at our recreation centers. So I think it's really key to market it to people so that you really have a good test of it.
Great comments. Final comments, Councilmember McIntosh.
Will it be mobile friendly?
Yes, the folks in information services are going to, I think it's called scaling, I believe. Okay.
Right, so that's
Correct.
important to go to Councilmember Scipio. More people are going to have a smartphone than will have a computer at home, so that's helpful.
Oh,
Thanks.
yes, they will.
Any other final comments? So I think we don't need a formal motion. Attorney Andrews, it sounds like the general consensus is to move forward. Madam Attorney, do we need to get a motion on the record?
No, I think general consensus is fine. I just think it's probably going to take a little while to actually get it implemented up and running, but I think the general consensus is fine.
Okay, so let's move forward. And if the next committee meeting, if you just give us an update on how the process went, whether things are live. So I guess we'll meet again in approximately 30 days, and if you can just maybe give us an update on how that went and where we are.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, concerns on this matter? Thank you, Attorney Andrews. Appreciate your work on this. Mr. Carrasco and everybody else. Thank you. Item G3, please.
G3, presentation on the Winston-Salem Police Department's partnership with Ring Video Doorbell Systems.
All right, and coming to cue us up is our Chief of Police, Chief Thompson. You have the floor, madam.
Good evening, Chair Taylor, Mayor Pro Tem Burke, and members of council.
Good evening.
This evening, we're here to discuss a presentation or to share a presentation regarding the partnership between the Winston-Salem Police Department and the Ring doorbell alarm system. This partnership was formed in an effort to reduce and solve property crimes in our neighborhoods. To present this presentation this evening is Sergeant Peter Watkins.
Sergeant Watkins, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you doing, Mr. Chairman, committee
Doing well,
members, Mayor Pro Tem Burke?
You have the floor.
As soon as I figure out how to pull this up. So on August 22nd of this year, the Winston-Salem Police Department went live on the Neighbors app. And what the Neighbors app is, it's formed by Ring. Ring is the company that makes the doorbell cameras that a lot of people are familiar with. They're under Amazon. They make home security products such as the doorbell cameras, video cameras. I think now they have motion detected lighting, that kind of thing. They make their main goal is the reduction of crime in neighborhoods. They have come up with the Neighbors by Ring app. They started that app last year, 2018. What the app is, and it's free to anyone. You can download it on the Google site or the Apple site. And the app allows neighbors to share and view crime and public safety information. What the partnership with the Winston-Salem Police Department is, we now have access to a portal that allows us to view everything that's on the Neighbors app. We can see exactly what any citizen can see on the app. Citizens can go on the app and they can post videos or crime and safety information. It's similar to Nextdoor, but Nextdoor includes a lot of non-crime and safety information. You can post things for sale or whatever. The Neighbors app focuses primarily on, or only on, crime and public safety information. So our portal allows us to access the information that's posted on there by the citizens. The Neighbors app is created by Ring, but you do not need a Ring device in order to use the Neighbors app. You don't need any kind of security device at all to use the Neighbors app. Anybody can download the app and start using it. Anybody that downloads the app and starts using it, basically they receive live update information, crime and public safety information in their neighborhood or their area. So if you live on the east side of town, you're going to receive crime alerts and safety alerts in that part of town you live in, not throughout the whole city or throughout the whole state or anything like that. So it's specific to your area. The difference with the law enforcement portal is that we get alerts sent to us by anybody throughout the city posts something. We see those alerts at the police department. But like I said, you don't need a Ring device. You can use any security camera device to post videos on here, or you can just post information. You don't have to post videos or pictures. So on August 22nd, like I said, we went live on the system. After we went live, these are some of the comments that were posted right after we posted our comment that the Winston-Salem Police Department was live on the app. So it's received well by the community so far. We've put a few posts on there, and we've got a lot of feedback from those posts that we've made on there as well. I'll say also that when a community member posts something to the app, what they're posting, they are anonymous when they make that post. They can post a video from one of their cameras, but it's not going to show up that it's their address or their name or anything like that. They just show up as neighbor 22 or some randomly assigned number. And on each post, so if one person posts a video on the app, everybody that comments on that post is also anonymous. They just show up as neighbor 1, neighbor 2, neighbor 3. They're assigned a random number to that post. The next neighbor that posts a video on the app, people start commenting there again, it's neighbor 1, neighbor 2, neighbor 3, and they're not the same as the one before. So neighbor 22 is not always going to be the same person. Right. Neighbor 1 it's going to be specific to that post. So that helps people remain anonymous if they want to go on there and post information. The difference with the law enforcement portal is the two main differences with our access is, like I said, we get alerts and can see videos that are posted throughout the entire city, not just people right next to the police department. Also, when we post an alert or a comment on the post on the app, we are not anonymous. It shows up as either the Winston-Salem Police Department or specifically a particular member of the Winston-Salem Police Department. So this is just kind of a rundown of how it works. Anybody that has a recording device at home can post videos or still shots to the app. Again, you don't have to have a device. You don't have to have a security system. You can just go on the app and post an alert that you saw a suspicious person roaming around your house. But once they post that, it goes to their surrounding neighbors, and then now we can see it as well. When they put that post on the app, they can choose from one of these 4 categories here: crime, suspicious activity, safety, or unknown visitors. So if they just have somebody come and knock on their door, they don't know who it is, they can post it on there. That doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't immediately start a reaction from the police department, because it could have been just somebody knocking on the door. But let's say that same person knocking on that door has knocked on 50 other doors, and people keep posting, hey, the same person knocked on my door. We actually had that here recently where somebody's been knocking on people's doors at all hours of the day and night for an unknown reason. It's the same person doing it, and it's showing up on the app. So that helps us kind of see what's going on throughout the city in different areas where otherwise we might not be aware that the person that knocked on this door over here is the same person that knocked on a door in this other neighborhood. The Neighbors app posts that message, and again, they remain anonymous. Any post that's put on the Neighbors app is, the Neighbors app is monitored 24/7 by Ring personnel, not by the police department personnel. So anybody that posts something to the Neighbors app, it's viewed by Ring personnel before it actually shows up on the app, if that makes sense. So if you post a video, they're going to watch it first before they allow it to show up on their app. If you then post a comment to that video, they're going to look at that comment before it shows up on the app to make sure that it's relevant to one of those 4 categories, make sure it's not inflammatory or derogatory or what have you. Winston-Salem Police Department, like I said, will see all the posts that are made within the city. We can also actually see posts from outside of the city, but we mainly obviously focus on our city limits. And then when somebody posts something to that app, now that we're live on that app, every Winston-Salem Police Department member who has a membership or a user name on that app gets an email alert. So you don't have to have the app pulled up. It'll show up in the email. It'll say crime alert, and then it'll have a brief description of what the alert was, and then it'll have a link on there, but you can go into the portal and you can see exactly the post that was made. You can watch the video that was posted. We can comment on it. We can request information on it. We currently have between 35 and 40 people that have usernames and can access the portal. That includes myself, command staff. There's a few patrol members. All of our crime analysts have access to it, and some of our forensics techs have access to it. And we're planning on eventually expanding that throughout the entire police department so that all patrol officers can, view what's going on in their neighborhoods. We can control what each member of the police department can see and do on the app. So there's different levels. There's a user level, so a patrol officer may be able to see all the videos, but they might not have the rights to actually comment on anything. That's just our way of controlling. Same thing with like a Twitter account or something. We want to control what can be posted, who can post, what kind of information gets out there. So, every officer in the entire police department isn't going to be able to post on here, but they will eventually be able to see what's going on the app, watch the videos that the community members post, and then if they need to request information from those community members, they can go to a supervisor or somebody like myself or someone who has access to actually post comments on there and request information from the community members. So this is what it looks like in real time. This is a post that was actually placed on there by a community member. They'll post the video from their camera system. Anybody, once they post it, it's public information. Anybody can go on the app and view it. But it's only going to show up to the people in their surrounding neighborhood or their surrounding area and then the police department. So, sorry, I didn't know the sound was going to show up, but yeah, it's video and sound will show up through the portal. They post a video like this, and then the comment underneath is what the community member commented on their own video. I'll stop it.
Sorry. We're going to get to it in just one second.
Excited.
If you want to keep watching, you can watch it, but so this is the comment they posted underneath it, and so they post whatever information they want to post. Again, it's vetted through Ring personnel to make sure there's nothing negative about it. So once that video was posted, these are the comments that were made. So again, neighbor 149, 172, 212, they're all anonymous. That's all they show up as is neighbor 149. It doesn't have any other information about that person on there, their address, their name, phone number, nothing like that. And again, the next video that's posted, neighbor 149, is going to be something totally different. So it keeps changing up. So these are the posts that the neighbor posted. After we went live on August 22nd, I put a post on there that was just a generic post from the police department saying that we were live, having information that we're part of the neighbor's app at this point. And then these were some of the comments, or I'm sorry, one of the comments that was made was somebody asking a question, and you can see when I post a comment, it shows up with my name, Sergeant Watkins, Winston-Salem PD. So we are not anonymous when we go on here and post information. Again, this is another video that was posted. This guy came up. This is somebody that this has been an ongoing problem. We've had a lot of neighbors in this neighborhood where this happened that have been posting the video of this guy. He's basically going around checking to see if anybody's left their doors unlocked at night. And if they left them unlocked, he's opening up, stealing stuff. He goes to this house. He goes to the neighbor's house across the street. One of the things that's helpful to us is, so somebody posts a video, neighbors start posting comments to it. We can post a comment on here saying, thank you for sharing this video. If anyone has further information, please contact WSPD. And then other people can post more information on there. Again, so neighbor 194 responded to my post, and he may have some more information, but I don't know who neighbor 194 is. So then I have to reply to his comment on the app and ask him to contact me or ask him to contact the police department and add information to the report. The nice thing about this, too, is a lot of times people will go on this app, post information or post videos, but they don't call us. They don't report it to the police department. So that's what our crime analysts are going to be doing is every day when they come in, they're going to check. Again, they get an email alert. So when they come in, they know if somebody's posted something new to the app. They can then go to the app, see what was posted, and then if they can look in our reports and see was this crime actually reported to the police department. If not, again, they can go on the app and request that neighbor to contact the police department and actually file a police report. Because a lot of times, if somebody just had their car, somebody opened the car door and stole some change out of the car or something like that, they might not see that as important enough to report it to us. But it helps us because it helps us link if there's a bunch of these things going on in one neighborhood. And again, you can go on there. It doesn't have to be a video. It can just be a still shot. Somebody posted a still shot of their car that got broken into and then made a comment on it. So again, this allows us to share information and to receive information from the public. We can go on there and post just information. Again, we're going to limit it to crime and safety information. We're not going to go on there and post a bunch of things because then it kind of becomes that boy who cried wolf thing. They just see another post from the police department and they just start ignoring it. So we want it to be to where we post something, people see that it must be something important. If we can post like a crime alert, hey, in this neighborhood we've had this guy has been breaking into a bunch of cars. If we have a good still image of him, we can post it on there and put some information on there and then request information from the public. Something we want to make sure everybody understands is this portal does not allow us to view people's cameras live or anything of that sort. It's something that they post what they want to post to this app, and then we can view what's posted on this app because it's public information at that point. Anybody can go on there and view it. It also allows the police department to request videos from people. So if we have a crime that occurs at one house, we can go on this portal and we can basically request, we can put that address in our video request system, and then we can kind of draw an actual shaded area on a map, and then we send out an electronic request for videos. That request for video goes to anybody in that shaded area that has a Ring camera, Ring doorbell camera, or some kind of out exterior camera that may have video. Let's say we have a car gets broken into at one address. We can request videos from anybody in that area that has a camera system. We will not be able to see their videos until they actually share it with us. They have to agree to share the video with us, and they can choose which videos to share and which videos not to share. They can also opt out of that request. So if they get a request from the police department and they don't want to receive a request from us anymore, they can opt out of that and they won't ever hear from us again. So again, it's not something where we can go on and watch people's cameras or anything like that. It's not an invasion of privacy. Ring is very careful with protecting people's privacy. Like I said, everything's anonymous that gets posted on there. At this point, there's a little over 400 agencies nationwide that are using the Neighbors app. In North Carolina, there's at least 14, including us. Here locally, it's the Winston-Salem Police Department, Kernersville PD is using it, and High Point PD is using it. I know they're looking at, we're talking to Charlotte, Mecklenburg right now, Cary, and then there's several other agencies within the state that use it. Does anybody have any questions?
Sergeant Watkins, I want to start off by saying thank you for your presentation. I think this is the second item in a row. They are different and similar at the same time, of how we're using technology to improve on public safety. It allows people to maintain their anonymity, but at the same time be vigilant. And I think that's the move. That's the way we should be moving as a city, and I'm very proud of that. Are there any questions for Sergeant Watkins? Councilwoman Scipio.
Do you want to take that? Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I saw your hand first, and we always say ladies go first.
Thank you. I think this is fascinating. It always amazes me how people give up their privacy so freely, and then they fuss about it when it's out there. So just want to make sure, when someone uses this app, they make a posting of a video. That, if they share that video on the app, then that is now public information.
Exactly.
And then can that video subsequently be used as some type of legal evidence if there is an arrest?
Sergeant Watkins.
It can. Now, once they post that video itself is public information. Their personal information is not public. We don't see their name. We don't see their address. All we see is that video and any comment they post about that video. Once they post that, it is public information. We can, not just us, anybody can go on the app and download it. You can download it as an MP4, save it to your laptop, computer, whatever. So, but with the DA's office, in order for us to be able to use a video like that as evidence in a criminal matter, we would have to identify who posted that video, because that person would most likely be subpoenaed to court. They would have to testify that, yes, that's my video. Yes, I posted it using my camera system. Yes, they would have to come to court and testify before we would be able to use that as evidence in a criminal trial. The only way for us to get that person's information is if we comment on that video and ask them to contact us and give us their information, basically. So there's no way for us to look at a video and determine whose video that is, or now once they, if they reply to us or they call the police department and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm the one that posted that video, now obviously we have their information. Because like I said, most likely they would receive a subpoena to come to court and just to testify that they are the ones that actually posted the video. Now, with the video request that I spoke of, if we go on there and we initiate a video request, anybody that shares a video with us pursuant to that video request, we are going to receive their information, and they are alerted to that fact. And that's why they can decide whether or not to respond to that request. They can deny the request. They can say, yeah, you can have this video, but I'm not giving you this video. Or they can say, I don't want to hear from you anymore. Stop requesting my videos. So they can choose whether or not to tell us who they are, basically is what I'm saying. But the video itself is public information. Anybody can save it to a computer. But in order for us, just legally, in order for us to use that in court, we would need to know who posted that video and have their information.
Councilwoman Scipio.
Yeah, and my last question is, I think technology is wonderful. How much does this cost the police department to have the app and to manage it with staff?
So it doesn't cost us anything to have the app. The app is completely free for anybody, all citizens and the police department, police agencies. Basically, all we had to do was sign a memorandum of understanding with Ring. That basically just, it's an agreement of how we're going to use their app, and so it doesn't cost us anything to have the app. As far as costs of actually monitoring it, we're monitoring it with staff we already have. So we didn't have to add any staff in order to monitor this. Like I said, our crime analysts are monitoring every day, and we're going to expand it to the point where all police officers can view what's on the app. We have someone in our criminal investigation division who's going to be trained on it, have access to it. So what he's going to do is, again, every day, just like the crime analyst, he's going to go in and see what's posted. He'll determine if something is relevant to an ongoing investigation, and then pass that information along to that detective. And then it's on that detective to try to identify who posted the video, if we need to, or use that information in his investigation. So it's not going to add any cost to the police department at all or to the city. We're monitoring it with staff we already have. It doesn't take any extra time. As of right now, there's really not a lot of posts. There might be 1 or 2 a day, and that's throughout the entire city. So it doesn't take long at all to look at the posts. The crime analyst will look at the posts, see if the crime has been reported to the police department. If not, they post a comment to that video saying, can you please call the Winston-Salem Police Department and file a police report? And then it's incumbent on the citizen to do so. So it's not costing us anything is the long answer to that, short answer to that.
Your question's been satisfied?
Yes. Thank
Councilman Larson.
This seems to be most applicable to ongoing investigations of crimes that have been committed, as providing additional evidence to assist that. I don't want it to be confused of somehow or another saying this substitutes for 911 calls,
Right.
while a crime is somebody's shooting the camera and they should be calling 911 on these things. And as we market this, and obviously to have it effective, the wider the net you spread, the better opportunity you're going to have to use it citywide. But I think it should be clear that 911 remains the primary response, the police response to a crime being recorded or even being witnessed. And then if you have supplemental documentation by maybe people that didn't even know the cameras were working on that particular site, I think that's, obviously that's terrific. But I would hate to think that we're not calling 911 when we see a crime being perpetrated.
Correct, and that's part of the post we put on there was if you have information, please call the police department, file a report. We've had several comments made by our crime analysts because they'll go on there and they'll see videos. Like I said, some people will post a video of someone opening their car door or whatever, but they don't call us and report that. So that's why the crime analysts are monitoring it to make sure that everything's being reported to the police department.
Right, we need those reports. We need those calls.
Yes, sir.
Councilman McIntosh.
I would agree with a couple of comments here made earlier that the technology really does act as a force multiplier, and the fact that it will free up cycles for police department that are now, I don't want to say spinning their wheels, but I mean, it just seems a more effective, efficient way to gather evidence and data. What is the typical cost to a consumer of putting a ring in? Do we know that?
So now, a lot of this is something you can go on Amazon and look at, but I wrote down some prices the other day just to kind of give me an idea. Your typical Ring camera system can cost anywhere from, I think, around $100 all the way up to about $500, I believe. It's really, let's see, the basic video doorbell, Ring doorbell is $100. Their Doorbell 2 is $170. Doorbell Pro is $210. The Doorbell Elite is $500. Those are the costs for the actual doorbell itself. Now, these are just Ring products. The Neighbors app, you can post videos to the Neighbors app from any security camera product. It does not have to be a Ring product. So you can have Nest, you can have Arlo, you can have Amcrest, whatever. You can post those videos to the Neighbors app. It does not have to be a Ring product. It's just that Ring came up with the app.
From a cell phone?
If you have access to the video on your cell phone and you have the app on your cell phone, yes, sir. And like I said, anybody can download that app to their cell phone or mobile device. Now, I know with the Ring doorbells at least, in order to post videos, how most of these things work is you have the Ring doorbell, but in order for you to have access to recorded videos from that Ring doorbell, you have to pay for like a cloud service. So like through Amazon, if you get a Ring doorbell, you're going to pay $3 a month for the cloud service, and that's what stores your videos from that doorbell. If you don't pay that, you can still use the doorbell as a live feed. So somebody comes up and pushes your video doorbell, you can pick up your phone, you can see who's standing there live, but it's not recording it. It's not saving that video anywhere. So that $3 fee through Amazon saves that video on a cloud, and I believe it saves for, I think, 45 to 60 days, something like that. And then Amazon also has a monitoring service that actually, it's almost like an alarm monitoring service for $10 a month.
Right. It takes me to something, this is a profit deal for Amazon, right? And we are, in effect, endorsing the use of one of their products. I would see these cameras, this device being utilized much more in affluent neighborhoods than in low-income neighborhoods. It'd be really nice if Amazon were to step up and provide a discount in NRSA or some format, so that this is not just going to be for folks who are have enough money to put that in. And the ongoing $3 a month, I think, would be burdensome as well. So while it's got really positive aspects to it, I think we need to stay attuned to how much quality is built into it. How many folks are using this in Winston now? Do we know roughly?
So what was the
400?
As far as the citizens that are using
Yes,
the app?
subscribers to the
There was
app.
several thousand. I forget the exact numbers, but it was several thousand. It's not as many as that are using Nextdoor, but we anticipate that that's going to go up quite a bit now that
Right,
we're
so
on the app.
And what's the expectation of scale? What do we think we're going to be looking at when it's? I mean, Nextdoor is ubiquitous now. I mean, everybody uses it. So do we have any concept that it will be that big, that many people will use it?
I mean, me personally, I don't think it will, just because Nextdoor encompasses other things besides just
And there's
crime
no
and public
cost required
safety.
for
You know,
Nextdoor.
somebody can go on Nextdoor and look for a babysitter or whatever. So there's a lot of more things you can do with Nextdoor than you can with Neighbors, because Neighbors focuses on crime and public safety.
And Nextdoor has been a really good tool, and that's another way that our police department, I think, really utilize technology to do a better job of communicating. I know I'm on Nextdoor all the time, and I know that people really appreciate having a response from a police officer, right on that site. So that's been really good.
And just, and I'm sorry to interrupt, just what you were talking about earlier, as far as the endorsing, we're talking about the Neighbors app. It's, like I said, anybody can use the Neighbors app. So we're not trying to endorse Ring
But we
systems.
will in effect be, even though.
Right, and I understand what you're saying, but there are other camera systems and
So
that are
let's be
cheaper
careful-
than that.
Let's be careful, and as we send this message out that the app is great, let people know that there are multiple ways they can feed video into that rather
Yes,
than
sir.
just that one service.
Assistant Chief Weaver.
Yes, sir. Good evening,
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chairman Taylor and Mayor Pro Tem Burke, other members of the Public Safety Committee. We're looking right now with Nextdoor having about 31,000 members across the city, and that's covering about 200 neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Where it stands right now with Ring, it looks like somewhere around 8,000 subscribers to Ring.
Great, good. That's bigger than I would have thought. Last question. If the video is helpful to the DA and a consumer poster doesn't want to release it, can a court override that? Can a court
Yeah,
forfeit it?
the only way we can obtain a video, like in any way, not just through this app, is if there's a video that we want to obtain or need to obtain, either they have to agree to it or we have to have some legal process, like a search warrant, something of that nature.
Well, we could capture it because it's going to be publicly viewed, right? So
Right now, if they post something to the app, it's public
Right.
information. So we don't need a search warrant or anything to save that video. In order for us to obtain information, we would have to send a subpoena or a search warrant to Ring to obtain that information if we really needed on something.
And that's my question. Is Ring the one who would say yes or no?
Yes, sir.
That works.
If it's coming from the Neighbors app, yes, sir.
I get a little bit of concern about that.
I'm going to Mayor Pro Temp with Mr. McIntosh. I know that in most cell phones, you also have the ability to screen record.
Yeah.
So instead of filing something in the cloud or going to Amazon or whatever, you probably could screen record, and then that could be used as well. But I think there are going to be a lot of kinks, a lot of problems. Overall, I think there's going to be more good than bad. Mayor Pro Tem Burke.
Yes, thank you. Some of the things Councilmember McIntosh stated, I agree with, especially with areas who cannot afford this. But as soon as I heard there was no charge, I said to myself, "It's nothing free in the United States of America." And you have given us the information that it is not free. And once you put the Winston-Salem City Police behind something, it is going to sell, because the people who are living and they're concerned about their safety and they hear that this is something that the police is working with, they're going to just go and get it. So something else you said, Councilmember McIntosh, and Chairman and committee, we need to look at this very carefully and how we are motivating or sell people to make money. I think this is not attorney. This is something that needs to be looked at very Oh, you have also the other attorney there, public safety, to look at it. We like to do things to make our citizens safe, but some people will not be able to afford one, and they will be putting emphasis in neighborhoods where they can afford. And then the part about once you get a video of something, even though you're saying what you're saying for the DA's office, they have their way of knowing how to get what they want, and they have their way of making the minds do what they want to do to get certain things. And people will be giving a lot of their privacy away. And it's going to be the poor folks that's going to suffer more from this if it's something that that DA or that Winston-Salem police wants.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Burke.
Thank
And
you.
just to comment on what you're saying, the Neighbors app is completely free. So no matter which neighborhood you live in, and even if you don't have a camera, you can be on the Neighbors app. You can see what your neighbors are posting on the Neighbors app. You can see what the police department posts on the Neighbors app. So if let's say we're investigating a break-in that occurs in any neighborhood, we can post on the app for that neighborhood, hey, we're investigating a break-in, this is a picture of the suspect. Anybody that has the Neighbors app on their phone or on iPad or computer or whatever in that neighborhood will see what we post. They don't have to have a camera system, they don't have to have a security system, all they have to have is the app, and the app is free. So I just want to make sure that's clear. Is I get that Neighbors is by Ring, and so obviously it sells products for Ring, I get that. But as far as the use of the app itself, the Neighbors app is completely free. So if the police department or anybody in any neighborhood can have the Neighbors app on their phone, and if one of their neighbors posts a video of something that happened in their driveway, neighbor who may not have a video system or camera system, whatever, is going to be able to see that video on their phone and see, wait a minute, this guy's breaking into cars in my neighborhood. So that part of it is completely free. Anybody can be on the app. Anybody can post on the app. If you want to post, if you have somebody knocked on your door, whether you have pictures or videos of them or not, you can still go on the app and post, hey, some suspicious person just knocked on my door. Be aware of this, and all of your neighbors will see that post. So I just want to clarify that part about it. I completely understand what you're saying. I completely understand the concerns. But the use of the app itself is completely free.
So excellent thoughts, excellent conversation. I would say, Sergeant Watkins, thank you for your presentation. I'm glad you cleared that up at the end to make it sort of gel together and make a little bit more sense. Mrs. Logan Ford, this is a information item, so it's not an action item, it's just an information item. So thank you for what you do, Chief, to the Police Department, Fire Department, Emergency Management. Thank you for what you do. That completes our general and consent agendas. Members of the committee or council, are there any items that should be considered for the good of the order? Seeing nothing further, we'll consider this meeting to be adjourned.